Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, another season. Let's watch.
If you want to look up insanity in the dictionary, there's a picture of you in there.
Oh my God.
Just regarding men. Just regarding men.
Okay, y'all, come on.
No, wait, listen. Because you're doing the same thing over and over again, except now you're going to India.
So we're meeting Jen, but just a quick note on the definition of insanity. I don't know when this happened, maybe 10, 20 years ago. People started saying, the definition of insanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's not the definition of insanity. It's not even close. What word would I put to someone that would do something over and over again, expecting different results? Someone who doesn't learn quickly? Someone who's in denial? I don't know. I don't really have a word for it, but it's definitely not insanity. We don't usually use this term in our field unless we're talking about legal cases. I studied and performed some forensic psychology work in my early career earlier, and sometimes they will hire psychologists to actually assess as to whether or not someone is insane at the time of the crime or insane during the trial, such that they don't even understand what the trial means, and thus they can't work with their lawyers to actually defend themselves, to participate in the defense of the crime that they're being accused of, or that they were insane at the time of the crime and they didn't know the difference between right and wrong at the time of the crime. They couldn't tell the difference between reality and not reality, and that fact contributed to their committing of a crime. And if they are given proper treatment, then they won't have the episode of mental illness or the symptoms thereof that will lead them to actually commit a crime later on. It's a misnomer that a defense of insanity at the time of the crime, it's a misunderstanding or a myth that if you claim that defense that somehow you'll get off scot-free. That's not the case. What ends up happening typically is that if you're found by a jury or the trier of fact, the judge, that you were insane at the time of the crime, you are hospitalized and you are prevented from leaving the hospital. It's basically a prison that's a hospital, a mental hospital. And you are prevented from leaving until the physicians, the psychiatrists, the evaluators determine that you are safe to leave. And that's a tall order for a lot of psychiatrists. They play it safe. And so you might be in prison. You might have originally for the crime been only facing a 5-year prison sentence, but you might actually, because you were insane at the time of the crime, you might go into a psychiatric hospital for the rest of your life sometimes. So now, there are other cases where they will find that with proper treatment, only after a couple years you would be released, or even shorter time, depending. Anyway, when we use the word insanity, we're basically using it as a word that means seriously mentally ill or psychotic, right? So doing something over and over again, expecting different results, is not the definition of insanity. But anyway, so getting to this cast member, looking at my notes here, Jen, 46. I don't know why I'm doing this, but she's from Oklahoma and she lives on a family farm, and she met Rishi in India. 1 month after they met, they got engaged, he proposed, and they haven't seen each other in 2 years because of COVID, and they've had a total of 45 days together. So she is planning on going back to India, getting married, and living in India for the rest of her life. So that is, is similar to Jenny and Summit story, right? Or, I mean, it's similar-ish, I guess. I'm guessing there's going to be some similarities, but who knows? Maybe Rishi's family is completely fine with Jen. Let's watch.
This is the cycle with Jen. She moved somewhere for a guy. Once it was from Texas to DC. Once it was from Florida to Texas. Now, Oklahoma to India? She keeps repeating the same relationship pattern.
Okay, interesting. We're hearing, and I always appreciate this kind of disclosure, this kind of information. The show almost never goes into this sort of stuff, but I find it to be I always say this, like, the show should do this, but then I'm like, I don't know if the average audience member cares. The show obviously knows what they're doing. They've made one of the most successful, if not the most successful reality TV show of all time. Is that true? I don't know, at least on my radar. But we're hearing from the friends that on 2 other occasions, she moved for someone, and maybe it was even so similar that she didn't even know the person that well. Because if she dated someone in her hometown for 2 years and then that person moved and then she followed, it's quite a different thing than what we typically see on 90 Day Fiancé. But given the way the friend's talking, it sounds like Jen has done something similar where she meets someone online or while she's visiting another town and then falls in love very quickly and moves across the country to be with that person. Now, does that mean that Jen is stupid or something? No, not necessarily. I mean, all of us are stupid when it comes to love. Put that on a t-shirt. All of us, if you looked at our history of dating, in all likelihood, you would see just a lot of bad choices and foibles. So Jen's just look a particular way. And is it unwise to do this sort of thing? Yeah. I mean, given the show's track record, and I wish we had statistics on this, but the amount of times that people on the show will very quickly become engaged and completely throw away their life for someone that lives abroad, either coming to the States or going to somewhere else, and it turns out to not work out. And it all makes sense to us when we're watching because it's just like, well, like with Jen and Rishi, they've spent 45 days together over the past 2 years, and she plans on getting married to him. And it's like, most of the time you want more time to vet the relationship, right? Especially when you're cross-cultural like that. I mean, she doesn't even know what it's like to live in India. She's been there, I think, at least a couple times, but she doesn't know what it's like to live there. So, there's a lot of unknowns, and you just don't know what you're getting into.
With different men, she deserves for someone to bend over backwards for her because she's doing all the work here. What about his family culture-wise? Isn't it kind of not approved to marry someone who's not from India?
His family doesn't actually know yet.
Blazing red flag.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, do these people watch the show? I would assume that they would check it out. I mean, it's highly relevant for Jen to watch the Jenny and Summit story. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's highly relevant to her life. You'd think that someone would at least watch a summary on YouTube about the situation, and that would cause them to pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Jen being like, I think I'm in love and I think this is going to work, but I did watch the Jenny and Summit story and that seemed pretty awful. So maybe I should ask Rishi, look, before I come out there, you got to tell your parents. And if you don't tell your parents, then I'm not coming. I mean, I would say that would be a pretty rational thing, right? Because, if you don't do that, then I'm just going to take it as a sign that I'm heading into Summitville, if you will. And I don't want to do that. So, yeah. I mean, we got to figure that Jen would have watched the Jenny and Summit story, right? I mean, we just got to figure. Now, why would people do this? Well, when you're desperate and you really want things to work, like with Darcy, she is desperate, as all of us are, for companionship. But if you have self-esteem issues or other kinds of issues, it can lead you to ignoring any kind of red flag because you don't want to believe that it's not going to work out. You need to believe. And it's similar to when some people will worry that they might have cancer, for example. They'll have some sort of symptom and they don't get tested. They don't go to a physician because they don't want to know the answer. And that doesn't make any sense, right? It's not rational to do that, but we all do that. It's like, if I just go into denial, everything will work out. And of course, that isn't necessarily true.
You don't care that he's not proud to introduce you?
No.
Maybe
he
he's
did
ashamed of
introduce
you.
me.
I don't know what
But
sounds
as what?
rude.
I just want to ask, what's going on with the decor of this restaurant? They have just plain 2x4s and then these cotton balls that are bunched up. Is it supposed to be like clouds or snow or something? But I don't think I'm a fan.
Your friend?
As a friend, yeah.
That's messed up. I would not be okay with that.
You don't deserve to be hidden.
You're basically his concubine in America and is his green card ticket. And I'm sorry if it sounds harsh, but
The friends always do this. So there'd be nothing wrong with the friends saying like, look, Maybe he's totally in love with you. We don't know because we don't have any information. And I don't want to be racist and xenophobic by assuming that someone from India would be lying to you because some other Americans will be that way. I'm not going to be that ugly American. But I will tell you that I'm terrified, and I think there's a chance that things could go badly. I don't want to impugn your judgment of him, but I'm just scared. And I just think that there's a possibility of all sorts of things happening that could go wrong. And so my advice would be to just hold off on getting married until you just know for sure and make sure everything's in place before you get engaged rather than the reverse, right? But I don't know. It's your life, and I support you, and I love you. We've seen some friends do that. I have a feeling like some of the friends even do that on camera, but they don't include it because it's not dramatic enough. But so many of the friends are just like so sure of themselves that the non-American is completely scamming, and they're just in it for the green card. And it's just like, just think, wow, just so many assumptions. I mean, it could be, but I think on average on this show anyway, it's not the common conceptualization that I have. I've begrudgingly come to the conclusion that some of the people on the show seemingly are in that situation. Danielle and Muhammad come to mind. I can't know that, of course, and maybe I'm being xenophobic by even thinking that Muhammad and Danielle and Muhammad would do that to Danielle, but it kind of looked that way. And then the Eve and Muhammad situation as well. There seemed to be some confirmation of that fact because of data that came out after the show. Anyway, so yeah, the friends, they always, or not all the friends, but many of the friends exhibit this kind of attitude. As she was being concerned, I was like, are we going to get to that statement where he's just in it for the green card? And then I was like, there it is.
You don't care that he's not proud to introduce you?
No,
Maybe
he
he's
did
ashamed of
introduce
you.
me.
I don't know what
But
sounds
as what?
rude.
Your friend?
As a friend, yeah.
That's messed up. I would not be okay with that.
You don't deserve to be hidden.
You're basically his concubine in America and is his green card ticket.
The other thing is she's planning on living in India. Maybe they don't know that, but he's not leaving India, so he's not a green card ticket. So what are you talking about?
Do you know if he's even dated anybody in between?
Yeah.
How would you even know that?
Do you trust him?
Honestly, yes, I do. I trust him.
I don't.
Really?
You don't even know him, but you don't trust him? That's what we call a schema. That's what we call assumptions. That's what we call bias. That's what we call prejudice. I don't trust him. What? Now, maybe he is a cheater. Maybe we'll find out. I don't know. But you don't have any data. But just because he's a guy, or just because he's not American, or just because he's not white, or just because it's a long-distance relationship, or just because you were cheated on a number of times, that automatically makes him a cheater or something. Like, wow, it's a lot of assumptions going on and hurtful. I think Jen is hurt by this, and yeah, I would be very hurt. It's like, Jesus, like, wow.
One thing that really bothers me is his social media. He's got over 11,000 followers. None of the pictures indicate that he's with you. And it makes me wonder, how quick would he be to respond to a message from like an attractive woman?
I feel like he is completely...
Yeah, there's always this thing about, okay, well, he's on social media, and he, like with Angela and Michael, and he has 11,000 followers, and he doesn't list that he's with you. And yeah, that's not great, but I imagine it's because he hasn't told his parents, as Jen has said, which if I were Jen, I would be like, well, let's pump the brakes until he comes out of the closet and tells his parents that he's with me, and he actually goes public with this, and then we'll get married. I'll visit and we'll hang out, but I'm not going to commit to something until I see a lot of things in alignment with a future that is conducive for both of us. There'd be nothing wrong in pursuing the relationship. It just seems a little premature to assume that everything's going to work and get married and move there and drop everything and sell everything. But anyway, so this assumption is often on the show, just like he has that many followers, which definitely means he's cheating. I mean, I have a lot of followers on Instagram. Does that mean that, well, I suppose what they would say is there's a lot of pictures of my wife. But I don't know, just this assumption that because you have social media, you're cheating. I don't know. It's... could it facilitate it? Could it raise the risk? Yeah. But I definitely wouldn't use that as a slam dunk indicator of cheating.
Committed to our engagement.
You feel that
I trust
strongly.
him.
So how about this? We can catfishing.
Like how? Like in what way?
I'm gonna send Rishi a message and see if he responds and how he responds.
Okay, we saw this with other people on the show. It was Steven and Alina, right? Although it turned out that Steven was caught doing cheating, and so I guess it justified it in the end. But I don't recommend this sort of thing. People contemplate this sort of thing, like, oh, I'm going to break into his phone, or I'm going to have my friend hit on them, or I'm going to hire a private investigator, or I'm going to put some app on their phone or on their computer that will monitor whether, I'll set up cameras so I can spy on my partner. I don't recommend this. It's a violation of privacy. It's a violation of trust. If you have concerns, if you're worried about someone cheating, then, I've talked about this before, but there's literally a chance that all of our partners are cheating all the time when they're not with us, or we're not monitoring everything that they're talking about online with someone. There's always that chance. And right now, I don't have eyes on my wife. She could be cheating on me right now. I can't know that she's not cheating on me. There's just a question mark there. But I assume that she's not. And if she were to be cheating on me, I trust that eventually she'd tell me and we'd deal with it or break up or something. I mean, it's bizarre to think about that. But, that's the position that I have. And that's the place where you want to be. So it's normal that the two of them don't trust each other because they barely know each other, really. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they talk enough online that it has facilitated the two of them to know each other and trust each other enough, maybe. But not really, right? Because you don't really have the full 3D individual knowing them in person day in and day out. And over time, you learn to trust because you have experience with that person. And eventually you can say, oh, okay, you know what? I'm pretty sure, based on my track record with this person, that they haven't cheated on me. Could Jen conceivably say, well, he could be cheating on me. I don't know. But I don't think that he is. And there's a lot of reasons why I trust him. Maybe he's a con artist. Maybe he has this double life or something. I don't know. But I'm willing to take the chance. He doesn't know that I haven't cheated, but I haven't. But he doesn't know for sure. You don't know. I could have cheated on him, but I haven't. But I'm just saying that, and I don't know. I'm going on faith, and I'm going to build a relationship with him so that I can get to know him more and more and more, so I can trust him more and more and more. I trust him for the most part, but I just don't have enough data at this point because I haven't lived with him. I haven't been in the same town with him. So, it sucks. And if you have preoccupied attachment and you have traumas related to being cheated on, it ramps up the anxiety and you worry, especially if your partner cheated on you before, right? It's normal to worry about that happening again. And that's why you don't cheat or lie. And that's why you also go through a lot of couple therapy to recover from such things. But there are ways of dealing with that concern. There are ways of building trust and learning about someone so that you don't have these worries as much. But to lie to someone, to fight a lie with a lie is a lie. It's not okay. You're basically doing what they are doing. They cheated on you. They conspired to do something against what you wanted. They betrayed your trust and they cheated on you. But you don't know that. And as a way of determining that, you're going to betray and trick them, and with some sort of Machiavellian plan, you're going to catch them in the act or raise the... Now, if you know the person cheated and you absolutely need that evidence or something like that, I suppose there might be a scenario where that might be morally okay. But under this circumstance, it's immoral to break that trust and to betray his trust by agreeing to this. But usually on the show, when they bring it up, they do it. So I'm guessing Jen's going to agree to it.
Get to know who you're really engaged to.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
They've definitely...
Because if Rishi finds out, certainly he will, if he watches the show, which I'm certain he will, then he'll say, wait, so what? You allowed your friends to trick me into believing that someone was hitting on me, and you didn't just come to me and ask me. You didn't trust me this whole time. Are you doing other things? Are other people reaching out to me? I mean, I'm not cheating on you, but do I have to look behind my back all the time? And of course, Jen would say, no, I'm not doing all those things. Well, Rishi would be stupid to believe that, because for a period of time, she is lying by omission by not telling Rishi. By the way, my friend is conspiring to catch you cheating. And Rishi will internalize that. He'll know that. It'll set the standard like, oh, so that's the person that Jen is. She's a liar and someone that will trick me when she feels insecure, instead of just asking me questions, instead of just working with me on this. She'll go around my back. So do I have to look out for cameras? Do I have to look for apps on my phone that are spying on me? Is she lying about other kinds of things? That's what lying does. It destroys trust, and she should not be doing this. Plus, it's just morally wrong. You can't do things to other people just because you feel like it. You can't harm people. You can't betray their trust just because you just want to.
I've been right about some bad choices that I've made in the past, but I'm fine to go along with catfishing Rishi because honestly, I'm happy to have the opportunity to show my friends how much I trust Rishi.
So it sounds like she is giving in because she wants to appease her friends, which is a bit concerning, that she's that influenceable and doesn't have a basic differentiated self to say like, well, okay, I want to please you, but in this one, I'm going to draw a boundary and say, no, I don't need you to do that. And I guess you're just going to have to believe me that I believe that he's not cheating on me. I don't know he's not cheating on me. I can't tell, but none of us can tell. You don't know if your partners are cheating on you either. I mean, there's just no way to know, but I've interacted with him enough to be able to trust him enough to move on to the next phase. Something like that. We don't usually hear that. Usually they're like, he's not cheating on me. There's just no way. And it's like, there's no way you would know that, right? There's no way any of us know that. So the other thing is they're using the word catfish, but I guess we'll see. So does that, because catfishing is when you use a different face, right? So does that mean that the friend is going to use a different, maybe Rishi knows her face, so she has to use a different picture. If she does, I hope she gets permission from the other person to do that.
Well, I love you, and I hope that I can say I was wrong and that he doesn't write back to me.
I obviously hope not either, and I don't think that he will.
All right, well, that does it for that episode, everyone. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.